Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it. I knew something was wrong the moment I stepped into the apartment. The air was too still, too calculated. Deborah stood in the center of the living room, arms crossed, her expression unreadable, but the real gut punch came when she spoke. "Conan, we need to talk." She didn't wait for my response. Instead, she let the words fall like bricks. "I've been seeing someone else," she said, her voice almost casual, as if she were commenting on the weather. "Charles, my boss." The name alone sent a pulse of heat through my veins. Charles, her arrogant, smooth-talking superior who always found excuses to text her late at night. I had trusted her, believed her dismissive excuses, and now she had stripped away every ounce of that trust. "You deserve someone better than me, huh?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady. She scoffed, folding her arms tighter. "No, I deserve someone stronger, someone successful, not a smear rag." The insult landed, but not in the way she expected. I felt nothing. No rage, no desperate pleading, just an eerie sense of clarity. "Right," I muttered. "And all our friends, do they know?" Her hesitation told me everything. Gareth and Caroline, the two people I had once considered my closest friends. Their awkward silences, their sudden shift in attitude, it all made sense now. They had known, and worse, they had taken her side. "They understand why I needed this," she said. "They think I deserve someone whoa." "Yeah, I got it." I cut her off. Without another word, I walked to the bedroom, grabbed my suitcase, and started packing. She watched, a flicker of surprise on her face. Maybe she had expected screaming, a fight, some desperate attempt to win her back. But I wouldn't give her that satisfaction. "You're just leaving?" she asked, disbelief creeping into her tone. "What else is there to say? You made your choice, and now I'm making mine." I threw the suitcase onto the bed and filled it with essentials, a few shirts, jeans, my laptop. Every action was mechanical, detached, as if I were an observer in my own life. As I zipped up the suitcase, my phone vibrated, a message from Gareth. "Gareth, man, just accept it. Deb deserves better. You're lucky she stayed with you this long." My grip tightened around the phone, but again, the anger I expected never came. Just a deeper, settling realization. I had not only lost Deborah, but also the people I had once trusted. I exhaled slowly, pocketing the phone. "I'll be out of here in 10 minutes. Deborah rolled her eyes. "Good. Maybe now I can finally be with someone who actually knows how to be a man." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Instead, I walked out, suitcase in hand, leaving behind the wreckage of a life I no longer belonged to. That night, I checked into a motel. The room smelled like cheap air freshener and old carpet, but it was quiet, safe. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the ceiling. The betrayal should have shattered me. But instead, for the first time in months, I felt something else entirely. Relief. Little did I know, the worst was yet to come. The first sign something was wrong came Monday morning when I stepped into the office. Conversations hushed as I passed, eyes darting toward me before quickly looking away. At first, I thought I was imagining it, until I opened my inbox. "You always seemed like a control freak. Should have known you'd be abusive too. Shame on you. Deborah deserves better." Dozens of emails, anonymous messages, social media posts. My stomach twisted as I scrolled through the flood of accusations. According to these strangers, I was a manipulative, toxic partner who had emotionally abused Deborah for years. I gritted my teeth. I knew Deborah was vindictive, but this was another level. She had twisted the story, making herself the victim and me the villain. Then came the final blow. HR called me in. Lisa, the HR manager, folded her hands on the desk, her expression unreadable. "Kind, we've received multiple complaints regarding your behavior toward your former partner. Some very serious accusations. None of them are true," I said, barely keeping my voice steady. She exhaled. "Be that as it may, we have to investigate. Keep your head down for now." I clenched my fists. Deborah had started a war, and I had no way to fight back yet. That evening, as I sat in my motel room, my phone buzzed. It was Maura. Deborah's old best friend. We hadn't spoken in years. I need to talk to you, she said, voice urgent. It's about Deborah. 20 minutes later, we met at a quiet diner. Maura sat across from me, looking uneasy. Listen, I don't like you, kind, but you don't deserve this. I leaned forward. What do you know? She sighed. Deborah and Charles have done this before. There was a guy named Brendan, a junior manager at her last company. Deborah started dating Charles, then accused Brendan of harassment. He lost his job. Then he just disappeared. No social media, nothing. A chill ran down my spine. You think she's trying to do the same to me? Maura nodded. I know she is. And if you don't fight back, she'll destroy you. I left the diner with a new purpose. If Deborah wanted a war, I wouldn't sit back and take it. The following afternoon, the call rang on the phone. A woman introduced herself. Hi, I'm Nora, Charles' wife. I know that he and Deborah are involved in corrupt, fraudulent cases and also humiliate employees by illegally accusing them of embezzling money. In reality, they are the ones stealing the money. If you want justice, you can help me. Do you agree? Of course, I agreed, and for 2 weeks we spent from morning to night looking for and recording evidence of Deborah and Charles' criminal activities. Nora and I decided to publicize this evidence at the company's corporate party. The night of the company party arrived with an air of forced elegance. I stood outside the towering glass building, adjusting the cuff of my blazer. Inside, the music was soft, the chatter polite, but tension thickened the air like an approaching storm. I had debated coming at all, but Nora had insisted. Tonight is the night, she had said over the phone, her voice edged with quiet determination. I have everything I need, just be there. I stepped inside. The room shimmered with chandeliers, tables lined with champagne flutes and carefully arranged hors d'oeuvres. Charles, ever the confident executive, stood near the bar, one arm draped possessively over Deborah's waist. She laughed, too loudly, her eyes scanning the crowd, ensuring she remained the center of attention. Gareth and Caroline were there too, but their usual smugness had faded. They had distanced themselves from me since the breakup, convinced of Deborah's twisted version of events. I caught their fleeting glances, uncertain now, like they sensed something shifting beneath their feet. Then I saw Nora, standing tall in a sleek black dress, her expression composed but her eyes razor sharp. She held a folder in one hand, a USB drive in the other. The moment had come. She moved toward the center of the room, tapping her glass. The conversations dimmed, all eyes turning toward her. Before we celebrate tonight, she began smoothly, I think it's important to acknowledge certain truths. A murmur swept through the crowd. Charles straightened. Deborah tensed beside him. Over the past few months, I gathered evidence of unethical behavior within this company, Nora continued. Workplace affairs, financial fraud, manipulation and reputation destruction. Gasps rippled through the room. Charles forced a laugh. Nora, what are you talking about? She met his gaze without flinching. I'm talking about you and Deborah. Deborah's face drained of color. This is ridiculous. Is it? A new voice cut through the air. Gareth. He stepped forward, holding up his phone. I've recorded every word you said earlier, Deborah. How Charles loves you, how he's going to leave his wife, how you use people to get ahead. Deborah spun toward him, fury flashing across her face. You traitor. I just wanted the truth, he interrupted coldly. Turns out, you've been lying to all of us. Nora pressed a button on the remote in her hand, and the large screen behind her lit up. Screenshots of financial records, emails, messages between Deborah and Charles, plotting their moves. Conversations mocking those they had ruined. Charles stepped back. Deborah's hands trembled. The room was deathly silent. Nora turned to Charles. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. The divorce is final. She threw a thick envelope at his feet. Enjoy what's left of your reputation. Charles opened his mouth, but no words came. Deborah reached for his arm, but he pulled away. The room erupted into whispers and gasps. Their empire of lies had crumbled within minutes. I exhaled, watching as the people who had wronged me stood frozen, exposed before everyone they had fooled. And for the first time in months, I felt something I hadn't expected, vindication. The fallout from the company party was swift and brutal. By morning, emails had circulated, executives had convened emergency meetings, and Charles and Deborah were summoned to HR. The evidence was undeniable: fraud, workplace affairs, manipulation. They were finished. I arrived at work that morning, keeping my head down. Whispers filled the office halls. "Did you hear? They're being investigated." I always knew something was off. I can't believe we sided with them. A few desks away, Garrett sat motionless, staring at his screen. He hadn't spoken to me since the party. He knew I had no reason to. Then, an email notification popped up, a company-wide statement. Effective immediately, Charles Harrington and Deborah Lane have been placed on indefinite leave pending further investigation. I leaned back in my chair, exhaling. It wasn't over yet, but the cracks had turned into full-blown fractures. A few hours later, Maura called. "Brendan's ready to come forward," she said. Brendan, the man who had vanished after Charles and Deborah ruined his career. I met him at a quiet diner that evening. He looked weary but determined. "They made sure I couldn't get a job anywhere," Brendan said. "They spread rumors, blacklisted me. I lost everything." I nodded. "We're going to make sure they pay for what they did." The next day, Brendan's lawsuit was filed. Wrongful termination, defamation, workplace harassment. It set off a chain reaction. Other former employees came forward, sharing their own stories. By the end of the week, the company announced their termination. The board wanted nothing to do with the scandal, but the lawsuits, those were just beginning. And Deborah? She was nowhere to be found, until she showed up at my motel room door. "You think you won," she hissed. Her eyes were wild, her hair disheveled. "I still have leverage. I know things. I can ruin people." I folded my arms. "Go ahead. See how that works out for you." She scoffed, stepping closer. "You think this is over? I'll find a way back." I just shook my head. "You've already lost, Deborah." And deep down, she knew it too. Deborah's downfall was sealed the moment she walked away from my motel room that night. The next morning, a video surfaced, her desperate, furious rant caught on security cameras. It spread like wildfire. People saw her for what she truly was, a manipulative liar grasping at control she no longer had. Nora finalized her divorce, stripping Charles of half his assets. His reputation was beyond repair, and no company would touch him. He disappeared from the industry overnight. Deborah, now unemployed, vanished from social media and moved back in with her parents. Her so-called friends? They had abandoned her just as quickly as they once defended her. A few weeks later, I stood in my new apartment, staring out at the city. Maura had helped me clear my name, and Brendan's case was moving forward. Justice had been served. As I sipped my coffee, a knock came at the door. I opened it to find Nora standing there. "You did it," she said with a small smile. "We did it," I corrected. She hesitated, then smirked. "Dinner?" I chuckled. Maybe karma wasn't just about revenge. Maybe it was about finding something better after the storm. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready to move on. Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.